Hello, I'm Dr. Sheldon Cooper, and welcome to the premiere episode of Sheldon Cooper Presents Fun with Flags.
Welcome to Matt Haslam's Fun with Flags. Welcome everyone to Powered and Protected by Rainbows. I'm of course your host, Matt Haslam, and on today's episode we're talking about pride flags and all the different variations of pride flags, because there are a ton of different variations out there and it's hard to distinguish which one is which and what they all mean. And especially when you're at your first ever pride event or a pride event in the future, then you're gonna have to basically look around and you're gonna see all of these, so it's best to know what they all are, what they stand for, and that way you can either try to find your group inside of that pride event, or you can just know what everyone is, and that way you can just walk around and, enjoy your entire day. Basically with that, flags and flagging are a way to kind of navigate your way through a pride event. And we're gonna talk about flagging in another episode, but on today's episode, we're talking about actual flags that you wave in the air. So let's get started. Now, the first pride flag we're going to talk about today is the gay pride flag, the rainbow flag, which is the most common flag you're going to see out in everyday life or specifically at a pride event. These things are all over the place. It's the red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple flag right behind me. The rainbow flag encompasses the entire LGBTQ community, but it's specifically made for the gay community, which, by the way, if you aren't aware from watching this channel for how long, gay pride is basically any guy who likes only other guys. So we have the rainbow flag. Next up on our list of pride flags is the lesbian pride flag. They have their own, which is right here. This is for any woman who only likes other women. Next up on our list is the bisexual pride flag, which is symbolized by the red and blue coming together in the middle to make purple, which is supposed to symbolize a person who loves both sides of things, because bisexual by definition is a man who can love a woman or a woman who can love a man or a woman. So basically it was pretty cool that they came up with this design for the bisexual pride flag. That way it shows that, the purple can go either way. Next up on our list is the transgender pride flag, which I also find to be a very interesting design for a flag. And it symbolizes any man who was born a woman and any woman who was born a man. So here's your pride flag. Next up on our list is for the pansexual pride flag. And some out there have the confusion of thinking that pansexual means that you love pans or frying equipment. And that's totally not what it is. And it's a fairly rude assumption to make. So pansexual describes any person who can love anyone on the spectrum, whether it be a man who can love a man, a woman, or a transgender person, or an asexual person, or an intersex person. It doesn't matter. A pansexual can love anyone possible that they're attracted to. Next up is the intersex pride flag. And if you're not aware, intersex is defined as any individual who has different characteristics that aren't defined necessarily by our typical definitions of male or female. This could be their actual biological parts, or it could be just their traits and how they talk or anything like that. They are considered intersex, and here is their pride flag. And finally, in our different groups is the asexual pride flag, which is right here. It stands for any person who is not sexually attracted to anyone. This does not mean that they can't have relationships or friendships that turn into something more, but it's typically not a physical relationship. These folks are just not sexually attracted or physically attracted to other people, which is absolutely fine, but it again doesn't mean they can't have long and lasting relationships, which are exclusive sometimes. So don't just assume that asexual folks don't have relationships. Next up on our list, we're going to talk about tribe pride flags inside of the LGBTQ community. And before I get to this, I want to just preface it by saying that just because someone has different characteristics or traits that you see that might fit a certain tribe does not mean they identify as that tribe. So please don't just assume that they belong to that specific tribe. They could belong to any tribe, or they could just not identify into any tribe at all. And I know it's a little hard to understand what a tribe is, but basically it's a way to describe your own personal traits, whether that be physical traits or your personality type or how you talk or anything like that, and also maybe even describe some of the traits that you're looking for in a potential partner one day. So almost think of it as like, I have a certain type of person I'm after. If someone identifies as a bear, an otter, a twink, or something like that, as one of the tribes, I can say, I'm attracted to twinks or I'm attracted to otters. And it describes a certain personality or a certain physical build type where I know what I'm sort of after, and I can describe that to someone and they know exactly what that means. Now, first up on our list is actually one in the lesbian community, which I don't know much about the lesbian community because I'm not a lesbian, but for them, I know that there's a pride flag for their one tribe called lipstick lesbians, and they're typically lesbians who like more the glamorous type of lifestyle, and lipstick, glamour, makeup, all that sort of stuff. Lipstick lesbians have their own pride flag. But anyway, on to tribes that I actually do know about in the gay community. The first we're going to talk about today is called bears, and bears are typically pretty hefty in build, pretty chubby, but they also have a lot of hair, and they could either be really, really nice or they can be kind of abrasive in nature. With a lot of tribes that we're going to talk about in the short little future here in the episode, think of it like the actual animal. A lot of the different traits that we're describing are actual traits of the biological animal we're talking about. So with bears, they can be chubby and hairy and sometimes abrasive or sometimes pretty nice to deal with. So think of it like that. Next up are otters. They have their own pride flag here. And otters are typically pretty skinny to medium size build body types. They are typically pretty hairy and they are pretty nice in nature for the most part. There are some of them that could be different, but for the most part, they're pretty darn nice and cute. Next up on our list are pups, and here's their pride flag. Now this one encompasses a lot because it can be anyone of any body type, whether it's small, medium, or large build, but it is typically someone who puts a ton of love into the world and expects a lot of love in return. It's someone who is typically very much loving of cuddling and kissing, so it describes quite a bit of people, but this one is their pride flag. Next up on our list are twinks, and here's their pride flag. Now, if you aren't aware what the word twink means, it's actually a word that derives from the word Twinkie, which is the snack that everyone used to love eating before it was discontinued. But Twinkies, back in the day at least, were described as people who were typically very lightheaded, fluffy on the outside, and not much going on up top in the brain, but were only good for one thing. But nowadays, it can be described for anyone who's younger and skinny and typically not hairy at all. Next up on our list are the geeks, and this is not meant at all to be discriminate against any certain person or anyone out there in that tribe, but they are typically people who love technology, who are very up with the times and always at their computer. This was basically the club back in high school where, you were made fun of for it, but now it's celebrated in the LGBTQ community. Next up on our list is the military tribe pride flag, and this is for anyone who is actively serving in the military, or maybe they are a veteran, but they belong to the LGBTQ community, and so they have their own pride flag right here. Next up on our list is the fat tribe pride flag right here, and while this might sound derogatory, it is absolutely not meant that way. It's not my wording anyway, but it is a tribe out there who kind of associates with the bear community, but for the most part disassociates themselves with that community because they're not hairy or they just don't want to be called a bear in general. So they created their own group, and this one is theirs. Next up on our list is the PAWS tribe, which is the POZ tribe. It means positive for HIV, and you'll see this pride flag around a little bit, but not too much, and it means positive for HIV, and these people are pretty proud of the fact that they're overcoming HIV, and while yes, they have it, but they have their own group as well. But please with that, don't be ever afraid to go up and talk to them. talking to someone is not going to get you HIV. So please don't be afraid of that. Don't try not to make a friend with someone just because they're holding this pride flag. It's not something to definitely be afraid of and be so scared of that you don't talk to someone and say hello. Next up on our list are the communities in the LGBTQ community, and one of them is the drag community. And they have their own pride flag right here. If you see someone with this pride flag, or if you see someone wearing pride, it's typically going to be a man dressed up in women drag, or there's a lot of women out there who dress up in drag as well, whether that be high heel boots or it be, a lot of makeup, big hair, whatever happens to be. If you see someone like that at a pride event, first off, you have to be very, very accepting of that and, love the entire community. You can't be discriminated against any certain group, even drag. If you feel that's not right, then just don't go to Pride, okay? The community will not put up with it at a Pride event. A Pride event is supposed to be accepting of all, no matter what. And so if you're not okay with any group, whether it be drag or not, please just stay home and don't ruin the day for hundreds of thousands of other people. But with drag, yes, they have their own pride flag, but it's important to note here that it's not necessarily someone that identifies as the other gender. There's a lot of guys who dress up in women drag, but do not identify as a woman. If they identified as woman, then they'd be transgender, not drag. So it's an important distinction to make. The next three communities we're going to talk about have a vast majority of their membership outside of the LGBTQ community. A vast majority of those who identify in the next three communities are actually straight. Those three communities, by the way, are leather, rubber, and master communities. They encompass a lot, and we're not going to dive into what any of three of those mean because this is supposed to be a family-friendly show that anyone of any age can watch, and no parent is going to get mad at me for sharing information on. So please, if you want to know what they mean, please do look them up. But again, we're not going to be covering those topics specifically on this program because they tend to be very physical in nature. And for you straight folks out there who are wondering when your time to shine is going to be, when your pride flag is going to come, and why here on Powered and Protected by Rainbows, we've only ever talked about rainbows and being gay and LGBTQ and all this equality stuff, and we've never talked about straight people too much. Have you watched the show before? And in case you're feeling left out and excluded and outcasted from the whole group, which, we would have no idea how that feels, here's your straight pride flag. And if you are an absolute ally of ours and want nothing but equality for all, including those of the LGBTQ community, and you just happen to be straight, but you think equality is absolutely necessary and you love us no matter what, and you want to be our ally and show it off, here's your pride flag for being an ally. So now you have absolutely no excuse not to have a pride flag on your porch this June and Pride season. And in case you think having an ally or a rainbow pride flag outside your home this June and this Pride month isn't important, then please let me remind you that you can have a little kid out there in your community who's riding his bicycle past your house, or a little girl who is, just driving by with their family, and they can see one of these two pride flags in their community, and they can know what that means, what that symbolizes, that they will be loved in their community no matter what. And this month, rather than trying to peddle some of my own t-shirts this season, I'm going to encourage you to check out 3 different charities and go to their websites, check them out, and consider donating any amount you can. Every single dollar helps here. The first of which is the Trevor Project, which is the nation's leading organization helping at-risk LGBTQ kids across America and preventing youth LGBTQ suicide. It is a vast problem in our community, in this country, and far beyond, of kids thinking that it's a better solution to end their life than come out to the world as who they really are or who they love. So please consider donating to that charity. The second of which is Have a Gay Day, which is an organization set up to help at-risk LGBTQ youth who come out to their parents and are thrown out on the streets by their unforgiving and unaccepting parents. And I use the word parent sparingly there because in my eyes, they are not parents if they give up on their children and don't love them no matter what. But in those cases, Have a Gay Day helps them out and trying to find homes for them and trying to find, first off, a home for the night, and secondly, a loving home from there on. So please consider donating to them as well. And finally is Rainbow Railroad, which is a charity helping at-risk LGBTQ across the globe. There are over 70 countries across the world that still imprison and murder LGBTQ folks out there, and Rainbow Railroad is a charity to help them escape those at-risk countries and come to very loving and accepting countries and provide them a way to have a wonderful life being open and out. So thank you again for joining us. See us next time here on PBR. I'm of course your host, Matt Haslam, and happy Pride Month, everyone. Bye for now.